It's hard to believe we are just 1 month away from Selection Sunday in college basketball. It's kind of like Christmas morning for every college basketball fan. You got the powers that be this year very much spread out across the country. I think it's going to be a very open tournament. Of course, you have the mid-majors, the one-bid leagues that everybody loves to see the Cinderellas rise up and pull those upsets sort of thing. We're getting at that time. Football season completely over. People turning their attention to basketball season. And one team that I think people need to take notice of is Lipscomb. Lipscomb was a team that really struggled early on in the year, battling through a lot of injuries. They lost Josh Williams to a torn ACL, which was a huge blow. He's a star. But after a really slow start, they lost 8 straight games at one point. Lipscomb has now won 6 of its last 8 games, including a sweep of 2 teams at the top of the Atlantic Sun Conference standings over the weekend in Jacksonville and North Florida. Casey Alexander is the coach of the Bisons. Casey, my friend, welcome to the program. Good to have you on, my friend.
Steve, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Well, we just talked about that weekend. Jacksonville Thursday, North Florida on Saturday. Those are 2 teams tied at the top of the Atlantic Sun standings. North Florida, I think, is everybody's pick to win the conference, at least coming into the season. What got into your team? What was the key to the successful weekend?
Well, we've played better as of late, even before the weekend, as you just mentioned. We had won 4 out of 6, and we had been playing just much more consistently. And, and I think going back to Jacksonville Thursday, we're just starting to put together a better 40 minutes. It's never going to be perfect, but, guys, roles are a little bit more defined finally, after losing some guys to injury and guys are performing a little better. I'm sure I'm coaching a whole lot better because I was pretty bad for a long time. And so things are just better, and we're glad it's the right time for sure.
When shots start going in, it's amazing how good you coach, right?
Well, you know what? It always looks prettier. You get a lot of credit when your offense is good, but there's a lot more to the game, and for us, that's never been our problem. The other end of the floor has been our problem, and that's the end where we've made the most progress, without a doubt.
That was going to be my next question. Is the thing that sort of stands out to me is how often you guys get in the 90s. Both games this weekend, 93, 94 points in the victories. So as you say, offense isn't the problem, but how much has the defensive end of the floor improved for this team to have the success you've seen lately?
Yeah, and the consistency there is what matters the most. We've had far too sporadic of good defensive play, and that's been a lot better lately. We've put together good halves, we've put together good 30 minutes. If we ever get to the point where we really believe in what we're doing defensively, then we can really start talking about something good. But the offensive side, we average we're in the top, I think, 15 or 20 in tempo, which is possessions played, basically, and that's the reason why our numbers are so high, both offensively and defensively. So, what we've got to do is just, is try to keep it from being we want it to be high scoring, but not so much just a track meet and trading baskets. If you let us score, we'll let you score. That's not really how it's designed to go.
No, it is not. Casey Alexander, the Lipscomb basketball coach, joining us here on SportsLine. One of the things that really stands out to me, Coach, about your offense is how readily your guys share the ball. 17.5 assists a game. That's right near the top 10 in the country at this point. What has made this team such a good passing and sharing team?
Well, we're a little old school these days as far as just being a motion offense and really filling a roster with guys that can play out on the perimeter and make shots. As you know, a lot of our game has turned into a ball screen offense where one player is dominating the ball and he's using one ball screen to make a play for himself or for somebody else. But we're still very much a movement team, a pass and screen and cut and share the ball team. And you've got a lot of guys that can put it in the basket. You're going to end up with a lot of assists. And so I think we're top, as you mentioned, top 10 in overall assists, but also in assists that lead the baskets. Higher percentage of our baskets come with an assist than just about anybody in the country.
Casey, a lot of people know that your background is that you spent several years on the bench with Rick Byrd over at Belmont. Everybody knows how good of an offensive mind he is to the game. How much did you take from that experience and sort of his offensive philosophy and turn that into what you're doing first at Stetson and now at Lipscomb?
Well, yeah, the big picture philosophies are very, very similar. Obviously, that's what I know. I spent 20 years there as a player and a coach, and so and we have plenty of success. So I'd be foolish not to try to do that. And Lipscomb is an institution very similar, and it allows me to recruit the same kind of players, implement the same kind of system. Now we're still making progress with who we want to be and ultimately what we want our team to look like. So we can't be quite as Coach is an adjustment-oriented guy. He's going to go from game to game and make several adjustments. We're not that far along yet. We keep it pretty simple as far as philosophy goes, but big picture is the same.
Casey Alexander, the Lipscomb basketball coach, with us here on SportsLine on the phone tonight. I said it earlier, no Josh Williams. To me, that's a huge loss because he's one of the better players, not just on your team, but in the entire Atlantic Sun Conference. How big of a blow was that early on for your team?
Yeah, it was very significant, and it came, there's never a good time for it, but it came at a time where we were really down and really struggling to find wins. We had played an incredibly tough non-conference schedule, which I'm completely responsible for, and lost a lot of close games. And so when he goes down, on top of that, it took us a long time to find ourselves, and it was simultaneous. Our five-man, David LaShawn, who was starting for us at the time, had surgery the day prior, and so we went from that moment on. We went the next 8 or 10 games without the guys who were on paper going to be our starters at the 3, 4, and 5 position. And so it just took us a while to battle out of it. I give our guys a lot of credit for staying the course. We haven't done anything, to be excited about, really, if you look at the whole, the season as a whole. But we do have a lot to be excited about if you look at our recent play.
Well, everybody wants to play their best basketball when you get to February and into March, and it certainly looks like your team is doing that. David Wishon is back. Nathan Moran, J.C. Hampton, some other guys that really lead the way. How have those three in particular kind of stepped up and led the charge without a guy like Josh Williams around here?
Yeah, they have. Those guys have been consistent scorers for us. Garrison Matthews is another guy that you didn't mention who just today was named newcomer of the week in our league for the second time. He's stepped into that role and kind of had to carry more weight than he would have otherwise without Josh's injury. And so, collectively, I think we're coming around, and we've got guys to do it. The other thing that kind of goes overlooked with our team is we're really, really young. We're starting a couple of true freshmen and a couple of sophomores, and we really don't have any seniors that are playing significant minutes right now. And so, even though this is our third year, we're still going through some growing pains with the transition for our staff at Lipscomb.
Okay, so you talked about the schedule early on and how difficult it was. This was a team that lost 8 straight games, going through all those injuries and things early on. You've got a lot of youth there, a lot of guys that have to play serious minutes for you because of some of those injuries. How difficult was it to manage the psyche of some of these young guys when success wasn't coming their way early on?
Well, I'll tell you, whether it is coming or whether it isn't, the amateur psychologist in us all is really overlooked. I think that Joe Q Public out there has no idea how much time coaches spend with their teams and in meetings and one-on-one meetings and video sessions and you name it, just addressing just that, the psyche of each player and the psyche of the team as a whole. And that becomes even more delicate when you're trying to navigate through a tough stretch of the season. And and you can imagine all the things that get in the way for a 18 to 22-year-old, and all the excuses that we can all come up with when it's not going our way. So it was a challenge. We just tried to stay positive. I think our guys know that we love them and trust them, and when everybody feels confident in each other, it's a little easier to go to bat for each other, even though the results aren't what you want.
I know there's a lot of work left to be done, but when you think about it, you were 4-16 at one point, if I've got my math correct.
Yeah, unfortunately you did.
But now you're 1 game back in the conference with 3 games left to play. I imagine you haven't even really allowed yourself to think about that, but Do you address that with your kids? I mean, you're in a championship hunt now here in the final couple weeks.
Well, it's crazy, and we're not going to address it quite that way, but my approach with our guys is always to be completely honest, and to tell them what I think they need to know. I don't use any kind of false motivation. We're not going to, we're not going to skirt the issue. We're going to tell it like it is, and we're going to tell them where we are, and we're going to tell them what we can do. But they're smart enough to know it's talking doesn't do you a whole lot of good. We're excited about it. I think we're fortunate that this 6 out of 8 run that we've had has come simultaneous with the teams at the top of the league losing and putting us in a position. As you know, in our league, our postseason tournament is hosted at the higher seed all the way through. So so we're playing for home games in the tournament. Naturally, we're glad to be in a position where that's a little bit more of a reality than it looked like it would be a couple of weeks ago.
Right, maybe even more important than the league regular season, as important as that banner would be to hang over at Allen Arena, is the fact that it gives you those opportunities for home games where the automatic bid is ultimately not certainly. I'm trying to think the best way to ask this. You alluded to the fact that 10-18 is not a record that you certainly enjoy at this point, but the success later on in the season is the progress you're looking for as you head into those most important games of the season. Are you where you need to be? Are you satisfied in this
closer.
Team right now, or how close are you?
Yeah, we're closer. We're not there yet. If you sat with me today and broke down the film from Saturday's game, you would agree with me, and you wouldn't think it was just coach talk. Still way too many mistakes that are easily fixable. But we are closer. Our guys are, as I've said several times already, we're playing with much more confidence, and when you can play with confidence, then you're typically going to play better. We've got a challenge this weekend. We've got 2 road games. We've got the Florida Gulf Coast Thursday. That may be the toughest game on the schedule as far as league play is concerned, because it's a difficult place to play with all their Dunk City stuff. And so, if we have a conversation next week and we're still talking about the same things, then I'll say that then we're really close at that point.
On paper, this trip appears to be very difficult because of the home court advantage that Dunk City, Florida Gulf Coast has down there in Fort Myers. And then you go back to Stetson on Saturday. Is that a difficult trip for you? How awkward is that game for you?
I mean, it's different. I wouldn't call it difficult. I would just call it different, and really that's just for me and the staff who came, from Stetson to Lipscomb with me. Our players don't care at all.
Right.
Half of them don't even know we coach there. So it's just a matter of going back and to a place where we work and have a lot of good friends and, have a couple of good years there.
2 different teams. What are the keys for your team this weekend to have more success?
Yeah, walking into Thursday, without a doubt, it's kind of the mental edge that we take into the game. We really don't see hostile road environments very often in our league. Some places are more difficult than others, but Gulf Coast sells their place out. They get fans that are in typical Florida style. They're pretty loose and casual and geared up for games. And so, it'll be really important for us just to walk in there with the mentality that, we've come to win the game and that we think we can do it and we know we can do it, and then play like that's going to happen.
As close as their campus is to the beach, I'm amazed they can get all the kids off the beach.
You know what? It's a nice place. I looked today. I went ahead and peeked at the weather. I think it's going to be 77 when we get there on Wednesday. We may even venture over to the beach for a couple of minutes ourselves.
Well, that would be a nice break for your guys before an important game. And hey, Casey, real quickly before I let you go, everybody talks about how wide open college basketball has been this year. We've seen a ton of teams in the top 10 and the top 25 lose, and people expect it to be a very wide open March. It appears that you can say the same in your league, in the Atlantic Sun, that this is going to be a very wide open Atlantic Sun Conference tournament. Do you feel that way? At the beginning of the year, it looked like North Florida maybe was sort of hands down the preseason favorite, but is this as wide open as it appears?
Yes and no. It's certainly more wide open than any of us thought that it would be. I do think that if everybody's playing their best, North Florida's the best team. Like everybody, they're just, they're in this place right now where they're not playing well, and, goodness knows, I hope they don't come out of it. But But it's winnable, and that's the other part about, in our 6 wins, 4 of them have come against the top 4 teams, and so our guys ought to think that they can win it. They ought to believe they can win it.
Yeah, they should have confidence. You guys have won 6 of 8 and climbing up the standings in the Atlantic Sun Conference. Casey Alexander, thanks so much for the time, my friend. Best of luck this weekend down there in Florida.
I'm grateful. Thank you.
Casey Alexander, the basketball coach over at Lipscomb. Doing a terrific job there with a team that, again, looked kind of down and out for the count early on in the season. Had some of those injuries that he alluded to, but, man, they can really put it in the basket. And as he said there, if they commit to the defensive end of the floor, which they've done a better job of here of late, they've got a chance to beat anybody in that league. And that's why these final 3 games are so important. If they can continue this stretch on the road this weekend and then next week at home against Kennesaw State, that gives them an opportunity to play at least once, maybe twice in the conference tournament at Allen Arena. Boy, would those be huge boosts for them, and the opportunity to go after that all-important automatic bid into the NCAA tournament, a place the Lipscomb has been longing to get to for quite some time now. All right, we need to take a break. We will come back. Phone lines can be open for a few minutes. May get some other stuff as well. 737-7767 is the number. Stay tuned. We'll be back. More SportsLine right after this.